this I saw on a Twitter from someone on Twitter, I should say, or X now, whatever you call it. I've still got the old app. I haven't.
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
What is this X stuff? The threads. What's going on with the world?
But I saw this guy tweet this, and I'm going to ask you, is it fact or cap? So this didn't come directly from me, but I just thought it'd be an interesting one to ask. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world right now, and the margin to second place is substantial. Is that fact or is that cap?
Man, get the hell out of here. Cap. No, it's got to be cap. It's not substantial. Like, to me, the best player in the world, I'm objective. I don't like... I'm willing to take in every single thing, but to me, it's Luka Doncic. Even though Jokic is the MVP, that's just what I believe in. That's what I think. And I love Jokic too. I just think Luka's the best player in the world. And I think Luka, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, that's the four who you can all make a case for. I'm not mad at any one of those. So, no, I don't think it's substantial. I think Jokic is the champ. But, yeah, I don't think it's substantial. No chance. That's just what I think. I don't really have any logical, I guess, stats or anything. It's just what I believe in. I think that, I think Luke is the best player in the world. Like, the Mavs are flying.
See what he had today?
No, what did you have?
26, 16, and 18. Nearly had a 2020.
But
they lost.
But
though.
Steph is just. But let's talk about Steph because two-time champ. One-time champ. Four-time. What am I saying? Four-time champ. No, five-time champ.
Is he?
He's a five-time champ.
Yeah, five-time champ.
He's a two-time MVP.
Yeah.
So he has to be so much better than Luka. Well, we're just taking the mickey because of that. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you want to watch it after the video, there's a Luka versus Steph debate. So I'm rambling on a lot.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it's a substantial thing, and I think Luka's the best player in the world.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think it's so close to call. I want to say Jokic is the number one player in the world, but I think what Luka does for that team is just hands down this year a lot more impactful. But at the end of the day, I'll read these numbers out to you. Jokic is averaging 29.7 points per game, which is sixth in the league. He's number one in rebounds at 14.1, and he's fourth in assists at 9.2. Shooting 57.3% from the field, and this is the one area that you could probably put a knock on his game, but 30% from the 3-point line. True shooting percentage is 64.9%. But
how long do you reckon he could do this for, realistically? I don't think he'll ever, if he doesn't get injured,
or
he's
if he
not
doesn't
athletic.
Get bored of the NBA and go spend time with his horses in Serbia.
I reckon he might just escape. One random year, he'll just retire.
And then he just do it and got lay low and no
hey guys.
I don't know, man. I think knowing, even though he doesn't seem like he gives a shit, I feel like he genuinely does want to be a really good player.
Yeah.
And I think he wants to be recognized as one of the greats. More so for because he's a proud Serb. I think he wants to put Serbia on the map and make Serbia proud, and obviously put put their name on the map. Obviously, we know there's been a lot of historical players from that part of the world in Croatia, Serbia, really legends of the game. But I think he wants to make a stamp on him being one of the greatest players, and the fact that he was from Europe and from a small country like Serbia. I think he's got something to prove in that aspect. But then again, who knows? I could be wrong, but yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's as substantial as it may be, but you could almost say 1A, 1B, Jokic, Doncic, Jokic. Yeah, it's a toss of the coin, really, how impactful they are to their teams. But I do believe they're the top two players in the NBA at this point in time right now.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'll move on to my next fact or cap. This one, I don't even know if I fully believe it, but I'll just say it. Okay, so fact or cap, the traditional big man, it's coming back. Mark Williams, Nick Claxton, Jalen Duran, Alperen Sengun, you could argue somewhat. I know he can play make as well, and he has it in his hands a little bit, but I'll put him in the mix. Derek Lively. There's a lot of bigs who maybe don't struggle shooting, but they don't shoot as much, and they're more back to the baskets type of players. Do we think that a traditional big can still dominate in today's 3-point heavy game? And do we think maybe bigs are going back to being traditional as well, as much as we see guys like Chet?
More of an acceptance for traditional bigs now, like rather than it just being...
Or is it just all like they have to be like guards?
I think, me personally, I think it's hard to say this one. I want to say fact in this. So I'll justify both sides. Fact because, yeah, like I said, you see the guys that you mentioned just then, and, you know, they have a really big role to play on their team, and, you know, the teams that are utilizing them in that sense are definitely getting the best out of them through that and getting the best for their team. The only reason I would say cap is a lot of those guys still have the skills and possess perimeter-oriented skills, even though they might not necessarily handle the ball on the perimeter or like create like a Chet or a Wemby. I think they still need to be able to be really adept at, you know, guarding out on the perimeter.
Yeah, defensively.
Yeah, switching with like, you know, the versatility to be able to switch on pick and rolls. In terms of, you know, dribble handoffs, you know, bringing the ball up at times, like an Alperen Şengün does. I still think those other guys you mentioned outside Alperen, they're a bit more traditional. So, yeah, like I think it's fact in that sense, but I think it's also cap because, like, yeah, the ability to switch. That's the reason why the Claxtons, the Mark Williamses, all those kind of guys you mentioned, Derek Lively, why they're so important to their team and why they're being utilized more in the starting lineups is because of the fact that they have that versatility to be able to like keep in front of smaller guys and whatnot. And they do have the ability to obviously shoot the ball, might just not possess it in terms of their teams not allowing them to utilize that because of the system that they play in, and vice versa, etc. So, yeah, I think you could argue that it is fact because it was a lot more than what we saw like maybe 5-6 years ago on the birth of this whole 3-point revolution. But in terms of, you know, still having that perimeter sort of skill set, I feel like most centers still have that, and they need to have somewhat of a perimeter game to succeed.
Yeah, just don't be like Bol.
Yeah,
he's
that's
like
what I mean.
Shooting guard, but defensive. Like he shows flashes of being so great.
Yeah.
Like, but then you actually watch him and you're like, this guy's not really progressing.
100%.
He's literally a 2 guy who's 7'2".
I hate all the casual comments as well, saying like, "Oh, Bol is exactly like Wemby." No, they're not even the same. Wemby's got basketball IQ. Wemby
defensively,
agility as well. Like his agility and quickness.
He can post up.
Yeah, he doesn't look awkward when he's dribbling. I feel like Bol when he's like dribbling and when he's doing.
Obviously, there's potential Bol, but how long can we kind of?
It's the attitude side of it as well. I feel like Wemby, like, you know, the diligence that he has with, you know, his preparation in terms of the stretching work he does, the band work, being able to like do the splits at 7'5".
Damn,
like if that doesn't show like that he prepares the right way and, you know, he takes care of his body, that's one side of things that obviously a lot of people don't see. And Bol, yeah, he's got the tools and everything in his bag to be able to, you know, be a successful NBA player. But I think it's the mindset thing and it's the attitude that he does possess that probably holds him back. And Wemby plays more like a traditional big in the sense, even though, yeah, he still handles the ball and whatnot, but like when you put him in the paint and you like, you know, he seals his opponent, like you throw it up to him.
He can do a jump hook.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Bol just wants to, he literally wants to play like a shooting guard.
Exactly.
And like shoot through, like it's not.
Yeah. I don't know how we got to a Wemby versus Bol debate in the traditional video, but
it's kind of popping right now.
100%.
Might have to clickbait it.
Clickbait it. No, but in terms of, the traditional side of things, I think, you know, they can still succeed. Even to a guy like Jonas Valanciunas, you know, like who came into the NBA in 2011 when, you know, traditional big man was still utilized quite heavily. You see he's made some changes to his game as well to be able to be a bit more perimeter oriented. And even a guy like Brook Lopez, a guy who couldn't hit a jump shot to save himself and came into the league in 2008, the same year as Derrick Rose, and, you know, came in as like a back to the basket scorer. The reason why he was a top 10 pick, for him to change his game up and to make those changes necessary to have longevity in this league, to be able to be a good 3-point shooter, be one of the best big men 3-point shooters ever. Yeah. That's just a testament to him. So I think, from a traditional sense, you can still be a traditional big in this today's day and age, but I still think you do need to have the ability to not only possess those skills, but to show that you can improve on it, work on it to like keep your spot in the roster and the rotation, if that makes sense. Whether you utilize that skill set, it's a different story. Whether your team needs you to utilize that, that's besides the point. But the fact is, like, I feel like these guys
defensively spot on. Like, you have to be able to adapt, guard, or like you have to be willing to guard
and switch
a point guard.
Yeah,
like, even if it never happens, you have to have like the mindset to like towards if like the coach put me in the game, like I could be switched on to anybody.
Yeah, 100%. And even like if it's a Zubats, I think it's another guy that you could probably say, even though he's not a young traditional big, he's still pretty young. But like even him, he's not like the most potent perimeter oriented player. But, you know, for what he does, like
that's
he had
enough.
30 and 27 last year, whatever it was, nearly a 30-30. And like that's why the Clippers have him in the starting lineup night in, night out, because he does what he needs to. Like, yeah, he gets cooked by Luka on the switch, but he's willing to actually switch out and, you know, like keep in front of Luka and like just put a hand in his face. Obviously, it's tough no matter who's guarding Luka Doncic on any given night.
Yeah.
That's going to happen to them. But like,
it frustrates me because I know Bol could.
Yeah.
But he won't.
It's
It's
the attitude thing. It's the mindset.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with his skill set or his talent, but that's besides the point. But I didn't really answer it, but I'm going to say slight cap. Can I weak cappuccino, a weak cap. It's kind of yes, but kind of no. So it's that one's like kind of on the fence. I don't really want to be saying cap or fact for either of them because I feel like you can make the argument for both sides. But for me, I'm going to say cap just because I feel like they still have perimeter skills. So don't come at me, but that's just like, that's just what I have to think about that one. But the next one for me, the next question I got posed to you is, despite Pascal Siakam still producing night in, night out, at age 29, it's time for the Raptors to trade him and get as much value in a trade package as possible before his decline starts. Is that fact or cap?
That's fact. I feel like why would you hold on to Pascal Siakam now that Scotty Barnes has emerged into NBA stardom? OG's, I know he's not like healthy right now, but OG's just a younger guy who, to me, does what Pascal does. I'm not saying more, but he offers more versatility as a guard. Yeah. And Pascal's great, but his value's only going to be diminished. And I don't think, like, in the future, I don't think you're getting much out of Pascal Siakam more than one first-round pick, where right now you might be able to get two and a decent young player. Specifically for, like, contending teams, there's plenty, I don't know, maybe, like, Dallas or something could throw something together where you get a guy like, I don't know. There's teams out there who would want Pascal. Like, I was going to say Knicks, but nah, because Randall, maybe I just know
Chicago Bulls.
Kings could, but then they got Sabonis. Yeah, but the Bulls is just nowhere land. I don't know. I know there would be a team, like I guarantee it's going to be the most random team.
The Lakers.
The 76ers could. I mean, with the 2 first-rounders that they did get. The Lakers did it. Oh, my God.
It'd be such a Lakers
Such a name chase.
The Warriors?
The Warriors with Draymond, that would be fun. That would be a bit.
I don't know. I just feel like, you know, there could be a wild one that comes into play. But obviously, we know at this stage they're not looking at doing anything with him. But I thought it was just more of a...
Nah, it's facts, though.
Yeah, 100% it's facts. Because at the end of the day, the older the player gets, the less years they have in the NBA and the less... a team values them. So I think they need to bite the bullet now, pull the trigger and build around that young core that they got, because Pascal, I think his best is slowly starting to
chip away.
I'm not saying he's still not that player. I still think he can have nights like that, but that consistency and that level that we once saw from him maybe could be slightly... That
all-NBA, like potential first team, no, I don't think again. And especially if the Raptors aren't, like they're not terrible, but they're not competing. So it's a waste of time.
To be honest, as much as this might sound like, you know, a hot take or like people might come at me for this, but I think that championship run maybe inflated his value a little bit more than we expected.
I agree, to be honest. Like, as good of a player he is, the fact that he was a proven winner, and I don't think he even fully... I believe that year he would have probably averaged like 18 and 8. So he wasn't that full all-star version, but he was showing he could be like a third option.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like that them winning that championship, him playing a decent role and like being an important part of that run to the championship alongside Kawhi Leonard, Fred VanVleet, and company, that just elevated his stock slightly more.
Since then, he's forever been in trade talks.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
it's ongoing. Maybe the Pacers. I don't know if I would almost take a risk.
Yeah,
I know
but
they
then,
won't compete.
then
but
Obi Toppin, what happens with him. So I don't know. I feel like, they're kind of in a good spot right now. It's going to be a tough one. I really can't name
some
a
team, like, he's too good not to be put to use. But I'll move on to the next one. This one revolves around the Clippers. And to me, fact or cap, Russell Westbrook is the X factor for this team. And like, because Paul George, Kawhi, James are all obviously going to start. They're all going to be, threats for the Clippers, scoring options. But Russell, he's the one guy who won't change. Like, I've noticed watching the Clippers play together, they kind of overcomplicate it when James has come to the team. Those open shots, Kawhi, PG often taking an extra dribble. But Westbrook, we know he's got to be attacking the rim. We know he's got to take corner threes. We know he's got to settle for mid-range jump shots. And they almost need him to do that. No matter what he shoots from the floor, the fact that he's going to be willing and always going to take the same amount of shots, he's what's going to push them into further championship contention. Is that fact or cap?
That's fact. I think you can't have all four of these guys on the court at the one time, especially in the starting lineup. There's only one basketball at the end of the day. And yes, we know that, certain players like PG don't necessarily need to have the ball in their hand to be able to create shots. He's a really high level catch and shoot type of player as well. Obviously prefers that shot creation and whatnot. But in terms of guys like Kawhi Leonard, they probably need the ball in their hands a bit more. James Harden, obviously we know that, and Russell Westbrook to an extent, obviously we know that he loves to have the ball in his hands. So I feel like off the bench, being able to maximize the energy that they can get out of him as a bench player, as that X factor, and then that energy that he brings can rub off to that second unit. And I feel like guys from that second unit can probably thrive a lot more. And with Westbrook's playmaking ability, being able to get guys the looks that they need. Even though some people say he's a bit of a stat padder, I still think he's a great passer. As much as he turns it over and whatnot, makes some rash decisions, he can be a really good facilitator and playmaker. So I think it wouldn't be the worst thing for the Clippers to do. And obviously Russ, like I said earlier in the video, he put out that quote to say he's willing to come off the bench and sacrifice for the better of the team to get the best out of it. And I think with James Harden, PG and Kawhi in that starting group, and even if they stagger minutes, get guys 2 at a time playing on the court at one time, the big four that they have, then that's going to just maximize their potential and their chemistry. So, yeah, I think it's definitely fact, and I think it's something that the Clippers should invest in and should look into doing, and it'll obviously help them in the long run with the chemistry and getting wins on the board.
100%.
So for my next one. Not the Dallas Mavericks, that's the next one. Damian Lillard can still be Damian Lillard night in, night out alongside Giannis, but Giannis alongside Dame hasn't looked the same. Fact or cap?
I think, at the start I would have said fact.
Yeah.
But now watching Milwaukee play, I'm going to have to say cap because I don't think either of these guys are looking like they're themselves right now. I think Dame's stinking it up too. He's shooting 29% from three last time I checked. 22 points per game. It's just not Dame-like. Giannis obviously struggled really bad. He struggled today. I think he scored 16 points, which for Giannis is
took 10 shots.
10 shots for Giannis.
The
amount of that guy gets to the paint. I don't know. Just they're overcomplicating it. Obviously, it happens all the time.
I feel like they're trying to take a back seat to one another.
It's like the
Giannis,
Heat.
Here, Dame, you take the. But no, Giannis, you take it.
It's the Dwayne Wade LeBron thing when they got to Miami.
It's early growing pains. I think they'll get over it.
They will. But I would say cap for now because neither of them look like they're full,
versions
full
of themselves. Yeah, full form, 100%. I think one thing I'm going to add about that is how funny was it that when both of them were out of when Giannis was out of the lineup and Dame played against the Raptors, he had probably one of his best games of the season. And then when when Dame was out of the lineup against the Pacers, Giannis ended up with 54 and 12 the day after he got ejected or whatever it was. And it just shows clearly they're more comfortable playing by themselves. The only reason I put this question forward is because even though Dame's struggling, Dame's played with superstar caliber players in the past, like LaMarcus Aldridge.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about LA.
Yeah, and then obviously that was in his early stages of his career. And then he's played with another fellow all-star level player in CJ McCollum, obviously. Obviously, CJ's never made the all-star team, but like in terms of production, you could argue that
and
he is
scoring like shot numbers.
Yeah, and taking like a decent amount of shots away from Dame. So I kind of felt like that's why Dame could still utilize it and be used to it, whereas Giannis hasn't really had that kind of a player. He came into the league more as like a backseat kind of player because obviously he was really raw when he came in, and then obviously as he emerged, the guys around him weren't really like bona fide superstars or like, you know, the level of player like a Dame is in terms of, you know, Chris Middleton. Yeah, he was an all-star. Drew Holiday, again, an all-star, but not really like a high-level scorer. Has the capability to drop 50 points on any given night, but obviously known more for his defensive side. That's the only reason I posed that question. But yeah, I think it's just growing pains. I think the chemistry will come. I think they'll work each other out. I think they'll work out how, you know, one another does function, who's going to eventually be the guy that takes that number one, because you have to have a clear-cut number one.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're going to obviously coast your way through the season. You're going to struggle. You're going to have, you know, losses that you shouldn't be taking on your win-loss column. And
you can't force, like, I know they're both really willing to make it work, so I think they will make it work and they will figure it out. And obviously Giannis is the guy he is. He's like, Dame, this is your team, but something's telling me it has to be Giannis's team still.
100%.
But
we'll move on to the next one, which is
the next one. Fact or cap? Dallas Mavericks are championship contenders. They're 9-3 right now. Luke is on an absolute tear, playing like the MVP of the league. Lively stepped up. Kyrie's like, he's back. That's confirmed. And then your boy you were talking about before, like guys like Derek Jones Jr., they're really stepping up. So everybody is just seeming to fill a void. Even if Grant Williams is underperforming, you got D Jones coming in. Like, it's a team filled with guys.
Tim Hardaway, underrated player at the moment. I'm gonna cut you off there. I'm gonna say fact. On this. They haven't looked this good, honestly, since
the championship year.
Yeah, and even like the days when, you know, the early like that point in time when, you know, KP and Luka were there, despite the fact obviously they didn't get over the hump. That whole bubble situation probably didn't really help them in that aspect. Even that year after, I know they made the Western Conference Finals under Jay Kidd, but I feel like they haven't looked this good offensively since obviously Rick Carlisle was at the helm coaching them. So in terms of, like Derek Jones Jr., underrated acquisition. He's kind of filled that void, in my opinion, of a Dorian Finney-Smith kind of player. I feel like he's the Dorian Finney-Smith replacement. He can come in, he can hit threes, a much improved three-point shooter. He's athletic, he can defend. Like Grant Williams started off like the season like a house on fire, but then he sort of tapered off. He's probably hasn't lived up to, you know, the certain expectations that we had of Grant Williams, but I think he's still coming out there. Still valuable. Tim Hardaway Jr., I think he's averaging like 19 points per game, 18.7, which is...
He's just a microwave.
Yeah, he is. And I think he was the key to them. I think last year struggled, probably being injured a little bit. Now he's like, looks healthy, he looks rejuvenated. I think he's the key to them. If Kyrie and Luka aren't having the best games, he needs to be the one that steps up.
And the fact they got him and Seth, like two microwave guys, come playoff time, that's going to be really important.
100%, especially when
they got the depth chart to win it all. Hot take, Dallas NBA champs this season.
Just have to wait and see on that one. But Derek Lively is like the other guy that's really impressed me. Like, he's fitted in seamlessly into that lineup, the starting lineup. I called it earlier. I said, like, if Dwight Powell's the starter, you're not getting anything done. I think Dwight Powell's still a serviceable player in the league, but
especially
just not
a backup.
Yeah, exactly. With like
on the bench.
Yeah. But in terms of what Derek Lively brings, it's just that youth, that rejuvenation of that center position that they've lacked. He reminds me of a young Tyson Chandler. And funnily enough, Tyson Chandler is mentoring the big men at the Dallas Mavericks at the moment. He's in like player development there. So the fact that, you know, he has come back to the franchise, Derek Lively looks really, really good for their future. And that tandem of Luka and Derek Lively and that pick and roll going forward for years to come is going to be a really scary sight. And I think they look really good. And Kyrie's finally started to like be the player that we expected him to be alongside Luka. And I'm glad that he's willing to take a back seat to Luka as well. He realizes that it is Luka's team, and at the end of the
Turns
day.
out, after all, he doesn't have such a big ego, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think people, like I said, that's just a misconception that people had of.
They follow the like what he puts out on and they kind of just label him as the bad guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Everybody's like somewhat of a bad, you know what I mean?
But yeah, all in all, I agree with that take, and I believe it's big facts, and that they're not just here to make up numbers or just be pretenders this coming season. So I think, yeah, look out for them come playoff time, especially with Luka and Kyrie, both proven playoff performers. Once they get into the big moment, that's why I was ashamed. It was a bit of a shame that they didn't make it to the playoffs last year, because I felt like those two in the playoffs
could cause an upset.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, it's probably the best thing that they did to tank, because they ended up getting that 10th pick, and with that 10th pick, they managed to secure D-Live. So yeah, I'm happy with how it ended up for Dallas, because I really like the Dallas Mavericks. I do really like Luka Doncic. So moving on to the next one. My next fact or cap is Anthony Black should be the starting point guard for the Orlando Magic moving forward. Is this fact or cap, Marcus? I know that he's had a bit of a slump the last few games, but what do you make of that particular take?
I'm going to say fact, and I'm like a really big Markelle Fultz fan. Like, I will ride or die Markelle Fultz till the wheels fall off. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of not, because like, yeah, I feel like a time comes where you can only wish so much on someone's potential and like upside. At the end of the day, you got they're not winning. You know, Fultz has been there. He's done his due diligence. He's started games. He's had his moments, but it's like, what now? Like, you can't just ride someone's goat tail for that long. And I'll use Denver as an example of this. I feel like Moutier was another guy I was pretty high on growing up, and he had his moments, you know, as a rookie, as a sophomore. He had 20-point quarters against Boston. He had games where he went off, but then he also had games where he really struggled shooting, turned it over, much like a Fultz. And there was another guy, a shooting guard coming up from a draftee in Jamal Murray, similar to Anthony Black, who kind of has similar traits. And it's like, why would you not have that guy as your future point guard if he can do all the things that Fultz can do, but he can shoot the ball better and he has more defensive up. Actually, maybe not. Fultz is a good defender, but I just feel like, yeah, why would you not go with that guy when the history shows that the Fultz experiment hasn't all been a success. Although it's had its moments, it hasn't been a success. And for the Orlando Magic to take that step towards playoff contention, I think you have to ride or die with Anthony Black, like the Nuggets did with Jamal Murray.
100%. And then the fact of the matter is, like, they're obviously going for a bigger kind of lineup with Paolo, Franz as your small forward, power forward combination, Wendell Carter when he's healthy, and then at shooting guard, I mean, are we saying Jalen Suggs?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I would probably just this sounds, if I'm going with the big lineup,
Jet Howard?
Yeah, there's Jet, but then, I don't know, do you fully give up on Jonathan Isaac yet?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, in his peak years, he was catching shooting really well, shooting like 40% from threes, 7 feet, rebounds, plays defense. Like, I still want to see the best out of Isaac. I don't think he's
really
he's
shown
too
off.
good.
He's shown off what he's capable of because of all the
because of injuries.
Yeah,
but he's too good to be he's too good to not be playing 20 plus minutes a night, not 12 minutes a night.
100%. And even like I said, that then Anthony Black, 6'7" point guard, you know, that's a really scary lineup with a really big lineup that, you know, you can throw out there. And I think with his playmaking ability, it's very much in the mold of like Luka Doncic, Josh Giddey, Cade Cunningham, that kind of big 6'7", 6'8" point guard who can facilitate, can score when he needs to. He's got, you know, reasonable athleticism. I think actually more than reasonable. It's like a 40-inch vert at the combine. He's got all the athletic tools. So I think, yeah, obviously still young. So
let him mess up. Just let him have the green light, I reckon.
100%. Because like Orlando's kind of that interesting team right now anyway. They're on that bubble of being like a playing team, pushing towards the playoffs, but they're probably not quite there yet. Yeah, so so may as well just give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, if it's not this year, obviously I think going forward after this season, they definitely need to invest in that, because I just don't think Markelle Fultz is the answer long term.
100% agree. My next one, Jamal Murray's injury troubles this year could be the difference between the Denver Nuggets winning an NBA championship or not winning an NBA championship. Is that fact or cap?
100% fact. We've seen it in the past few years. Obviously, Nikola Jokic had to do everything in certain playoff series when Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. were unhealthy. Obviously, at that time, they didn't have Aaron Gordon, who's an important piece. And I think if at least one of those two guys in MPJ or Jamal Murray was to go down come playoff time, I feel like at least Aaron Gordon can carry that load offensively. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Pause. But yeah, like in terms of what Aaron Gordon's able to carry that load that they previously might not have had as that fourth option, that obviously does come in handy. But Jamal Murray, we saw what he did in the playoffs last year. We saw how important he was as that 1-2 punch, not only as a scorer, but like being just involved in that 2-man game with Jokic. Whether he's obviously the ball handler or the pick man in that particular 2-man game, it's just that 1-2 punch, that chemistry that him and Jokic have, just makes the game easier for both of them. Makes the game easy for Jokic. Opens up so many looks for him, and then at the same time for Jamal Murray, having a guy that attracts so much defensive attention like Jokic does. Just makes the game easy for Jamal to get open shots, open looks, and just get that confidence. When he sees Jokic playing to that level, he kind of rises up to that level as well. And we know how capable he is. Like I said, during the bubble, had that 50-point game against the Jazz. And then he stepped up in this last playoff run in every series pretty much, against the Lakers, against the Suns, and then in the finals against the Heat, he was big. So, yeah, he's having a bit of a down year, averaging only like 16 points per game. But we know come playoff time how good he is. But it's obviously the second year coming back from an injury. The body must be aching, especially after a long season last year where they obviously played all the way through right to the end of the last game of the finals. So there is that wear and tear on his body. But I think, fingers crossed, he can stay healthy. They are a different team with him in the lineup. So with that, I think they could be honestly genuine contenders out in the West and obviously repeat again as champions of the NBA. But moving on to my next point, or next fact or cap question is, Donovan Mitchell, could he force his way out of the Cleveland Cavaliers based off the way they've started the season? And obviously, there has been talks about him. Ideally, Cleveland wasn't his preferred destination in this whole trade, but he's obviously ended up here, had an All-NBA caliber season last year. But do you think that long-term or even in the short term, he could obviously be out of Cleveland?
Short-term, no. Long-term, definitely. I think New York, the Knicks would be like still the preferred destination with like the origins with his dad and the Mets, the baseball team. And then Leon Rose, that's his name.
Yeah, Leon Rose, yeah.
He was Donovan's agent and he works, he's like a Knicks executive there. So I definitely think he wanted to get to New York. He didn't get there, but he wanted to. Knicks obviously need that, or they've been wanting that superstar or star guy that they can market their team around. And I think him with Brunson and Randall, RJ, I think he could actually fit in there pretty well. So
don't know if they will be able to keep RJ though or Randall.
Yeah,
it has to
I don't think they would. Well,
like if it's
Emmanuel quickly and some picks, Mitchell Robertson. Yeah. I think they could easily make a deal.
Maybe in free agency, yeah. But in terms of like a trade, they'd have to include one of those.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I reckon quickly Mitchell Robertson and a pick or two probably gets it done. Like they have so many. So
you think more that Cleveland, him getting to Cleveland, you reckon that was more of an overpay from the Cavaliers' perspective in terms of giving up what they gave up?
Probably.
Yeah.
And they still got other people like that. I don't think they would have to give up RJ. Like they got Grimes there, McBride. They got Josh Hart. Wait. Yeah,
Josh Hart. But I'm just saying, as in, I don't know whether
you don't know about.
I don't know. It'd be interesting. It would be an interesting one.
But I definitely think, fact. Definitely facts.
I especially think just that dynamic. Like once they got to the playoffs last year against the Knicks, and they're expected to obviously knock them off, and having that failure in the first round with all the expectations that the Cavs had, and a lot of the media, in terms of their belief that the media had in them actually, being a top contender in the East, and having that first round exit probably just magnified that a little bit. And then the way they started the season, obviously they've improved a little bit over the last couple of games, but that slow start, Darius Garland maybe not, playing to the level we expect of Darius Garland, and then the acquisitions of Strus and George Niang coming in free agency, experienced guys who played on championship caliber teams, sort of hasn't really hit the spot yet. And Isaac Okoro obviously hasn't really reached the potential that they expected of him when they picked him so high in the draft. I reckon that was a bit of a reach anyway, them drafting him as high as they did. And then to add to that as well, Evan Mobley, as long as he can continue to emerge, as a star player that they expect him to be, both on the offensive side of the ball, and we know what he's capable of on the defensive side. Maybe that convinces Donovan Mitchell to stay, and if they can, like I said, put the pieces together, who knows, maybe he's in Cleveland longer than we expect. But in the short term, I don't know. It's all up in the air at the moment, and there's always those rumors going around about him wanting to go back to New York and play for the Knicks, a franchise that he does have some connections to. So just have to wait and see how things play out. But I'm assuming you're going to say fact?
Yeah, facts, 100%. I definitely think it's a legitimate, it could definitely happen. But my next fact or cap, the Warriors are lacking another 20-point per game scorer. Clay isn't really the same. Obviously, I won't go too in depth, but there's a lot of, we touched on it before about the Golden State Warriors. A lot of their key, I guess, guys you would expect to,
step up
with Steph thriving, for them to be a playoff contending team. They need to take that next step. They haven't really done it. So, fact or cap, I guess, are the Warriors missing another scorer next to Steph because the other guys just aren't really cutting it?
100% fact. I stated it when we were talking about them as being the biggest disappointment thus far, or this week in a bit, but pretty much you could argue for the entire season with how highly the media rated them as a team going into the season. But with Steph having as big of a season as he is, and as historic of a season as he has in comparison to obviously that unanimous MVP year, like I mentioned, the numbers are almost identical. He looks as good as he has ever been. Obviously, the health concerns with Steph are always going to be in question. Last year, missed games. This year, obviously, missed games early now. So the question mark's always going to be about his health, because if he's not healthy, that team isn't going to be at the level we expect him to be at, because he's the only one that's really producing on the offensive side of the ball at the moment. Obviously, they have even contributions across the board in Dario Saric. Kuminga has his moments. Moody can be that guy. Bajimski, like I mentioned earlier, I think he's got the potential to be that next guy on the Warriors as a high-level scorer and as a facilitator. But you need more from Klay Thompson. You need more from Draymond Green.
Andrew Wiggins as
well. Big facts. One of those guys, obviously, I don't think they're going to be able to acquire anyone in a trade, because they gave up a guy who can put 20 points per game on the board in Jordan Poole for a guy like Chris Paul, who's obviously aged. He's not the same Chris Paul as he once was. Great facilitator, still a really important piece in that system that the Golden State Warriors run, and allows other guys to get open looks. Probably maybe he's given guys who might not necessarily be able to create shots on their own, easy looks at the bucket. But in terms of guys that that you can rely on and count on to put the ball in the basket and get a bucket when they need to, I don't think they have that guy outside of Steph Curry right now, and that's probably what is probably making them struggle the way they are in the early, early season pains that they're going through in terms of not getting the wins on the board. But I mean, they can turn it around. I think Clay's got that ability, even though he might be well past it. I still think he can put in a decent performance every now and then, but can you rely on him to be that second option? I just don't think so. So you really need to get those younger guys to step up.
Hopefully Kuminga, it's not really up to him though. I feel like it's up to coaching. It's up to front office. He can, say every game he was to take 15 shots a night. You never know. Why not?
I just think he kind of plays out of control sometimes. I kind of feel like, at times he can be he's got outworldly athleticism. He's got the ability to, shoot the three ball, but
mid-range.
At times I think he's out of control, and sometimes maybe he doesn't make the right read or the right play on the court, and maybe that's something to do with the basketball IQ side of things. He's still a young guy. Although he's been in the league for a number of years now, the fact of the matter is he came into the league. The year he came into the league, he should have actually been his first year in college. When he was at G League Ignite, he actually skipped his high, like he reclassified to be able to go to G League Ignite. So he was only like 17, turning 18 when he got into G League Ignite. So realistically speaking, when he got to the league, he was almost like a college freshman. So there is still that young age, and that fuck me.
Yeah.
We've been talking for like 2 hours, so apologies. Let me just get myself.
No, I get what you mean though. He's like it's like when Iguodala came into the league, and they are kind of a similar mold. It's like he wasn't seasoned enough, but then later on, obviously we found out Iggy later on in his career can be that 20-point per game guy when he was at Denver and when he was at obviously Philadelphia. So yeah, as a career trajectory, I guess you kind of look at Iggy as a prime example of someone who can, you just invest in them and you never know.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like Iggy, he played college ball and he was like maybe, I don't know, they both came out as freshmen or whatever, but in terms of, I don't know, maybe Iggy had a bit more maturity.
You reckon?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just clutching at straws here. Maybe I'm not giving Kuminga enough credit, but we'll just have to wait and see. But obviously, in that case, from that question that you've posed, I do believe it's fact, and that's the only way they're going to win a championship or like remain relevant in championship conversations. So yeah, but for my last question and the last question of the fact or cap segment, the in-season tournament has made basketball games in November interesting and relevant again. Is that fact or is that cap?
Fact. At the start, I was really confused. I didn't really know what this was, but I'm really enjoying it. I think we're seeing like playoff type games, like between the Warriors and between the Wolves. Obviously, the Lakers, like that playing game was pretty huge as well. We're seeing a bit of like beef, bit of tension. Obviously, I'll use Anthony Edwards and Draymond as a prime example. And then the main thing is, you can't, like Dame said, how can you hate on a playing tournament when it's getting, I guess, guys who are two-way guaranteed players like bread? Like, you can't hate on it. I think it's only doing good for the league. It's giving, I guess, fans something to look forward to every Friday. Like, I certainly like tuning in when I see that weird-looking court, weird jerseys.
It's very overstimulating, though, at times. It can be especially the red courts. Like, they're terrible to watch basketball on, but it's fun nonetheless.
I think it's just fun. I don't think it's doing any harm to the leagues. Like, I think it's been a success.
Yeah. I think we were skeptical on the whole playing tournament when it first came in, and, there was like, oh, it's non-traditional, this and that, like keep the one at 8
doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. But now we've seen how, like, how serious some of these teams take this opportunity to get into the play-in because they know they can cause damage. Like you saw that Miami Heat last year, they were a play-in or in the play-in at that point in time, and then they went on that absolutely
rampage
of a run in the playoffs and got to the finals. Obviously, ran into a steam train in the Denver Nuggets, obviously with Nikola Jokic at the helm. But in terms of, it shows that any team that does participate in the play-in has a chance at winning the finals or, becoming an NBA champion. So I guess same sort of concept. People might have been a little bit hit or miss with this in-season tournament, but I think, it just gives those small market teams or mid-market teams, an opportunity to taste a bit of success. And then, that actually might be the motivation that they need or the push that they need to actually, strive to win an NBA championship, because now that they got some silverware, now that they've tasted that success, even if it means like it's just an in-season tournament or the NBA Cup, whatever they're calling it, like at the end of the day, having any kind of success or any taste of success that you do get at that NBA level makes you want more.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it just gives that hunger
especially
to the
for
players.
the younger guys.
100%. Yeah.
Like teams like the Magic or teams like the
Pacers even.
The Pistons.
Yeah.
I feel like, it's pretty cool.
But in terms of, like even just the fact that they use their City Edition uniforms, the City Edition court.
Heat culture.
Yeah, it just adds a bit of, like I said, a bit of interest, a bit of a different side to the NBA. And I think as long as they don't change going forward, like adding a 4-point line in and adding things that are untraditional to the game of basketball, then I'm going to tune out and I'm going to be pretty disappointed. But like if it doesn't hurt the game of basketball in a whole and it adds more competitiveness and, there's more interest to those games in November and in the early stages of the season, then I'm all for it. So I really enjoy it thus far.
Yeah, massive win. Yeah. I definitely understand it a lot more now, and
you read through you watched the Richard Jefferson tutorial video about the in-season tournament. It's like this video that he
We
did.
were all thinking plays before, so that doesn't tell you anything. You know what I mean?